Hello everyone, I'm Aminata Kambalde, your host for this edition of the Ignition Hour, and I hope that we are all keeping safe and taking the precautionary measures to keep ourselves and our communities safe from the COVID-19. It is very essential as we coming back to what seems to be the new normal that we abide by the rules that will help us protect one another. Dear audience, I'm super excited to welcome you to this edition of the Ignition Hour, where we bring to you great entrepreneurs in an effort of helping you be ignited by their journeys and experiences. Whether you are young entrepreneurs or contemplating embarking on that path. This game changer that is the Ignition Hour is brought to you by Craving for Development, an organization that is committed to equipping young Africans with the necessary skills of being proactive, independent, and impact oriented. Ladies and gentlemen, let's project ourselves and imagine an Africa where the driving forces of our youth are curiosity, engagement, and grit. At the Ignition Hour, we are on a mission to make that happen, and we are just getting started. Because our countries need more innovators and stronger entrepreneurs who are ready to do what it takes to challenge the status quo. Another projection that we need to make is one where our pride for our legacy and all we have to offer is as paramount and as deeply rooted as the 200-year-old cotton tree, and where the current efforts to develop our countries would have transformed our hard-luck nation. The topic of this afternoon's session is tourism, making the Salone destination as attractive as its potential. Did you know that the Salone destination is topping the list as one of the fastest growing travel destinations, even above countries like Iceland, Japan, and Chile? While with a colorful architecture and picturesque landscape and a congruent blend of mountains, sea, and city. It's a potpourri of cultures, tribes, and varied buildings, and one of the best kept secrets of West Africa, with the breathtaking beaches and intricate rainforests to explore. On a clear day, the contrast of the beach, the rainforest, and the sky provides a reflection of the country's flag. Sierra Leone features incredible wildlife attractions, including national parks and primate sanctuaries. To discuss all that and much more, we have Madame Randa Swaid, the CEO of Swiss Hotel. Give a round of applause to welcome her. Thank you so much for being with us, Randa.
Thank you very much, Aminata, for inviting me.
You're welcome, yes. And Mr. Abimbola Carrol, founder and CEO of Visit Sierra Leone. Their efforts are geared towards providing a very positive and attractive image of Sierra Leone amidst the sometimes negative perception about our country. They both invest in marketing the country in more ways than meet the eye. I can promise you that by the end of this edition, we will be enlightened enough to be better representatives of this destination, but also ready to embark on entrepreneurship in this sector. Thank you so much for joining us. I am really very, very honored. Thank you so much for that. So I just wanted to, without further ado, to go straight, to the first question, which is what brought you to the tourism sector?
I go first?
Yes, ladies, always.
Thank you, Aminata. Tourism sector, what brought me to it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've always been a very warm and good hostess. I like people, I like to entertain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always my dream growing up, being in university, that I would love to own a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went into the furniture business first and I put it aside.
Mm.
But my husband always felt that I was wasted to not be in the hospitality industry.
Mhm.
So eventually, when we found the right property, um, we embarked on the hotel, Swiss hotel. And lots of stories to tell since. Very good, interesting industry,
Mm-hmm.
and that is very much determined by character.
Mm.
I mean, your character is what makes you successful more than anything else in this industry.
Mhm.
So that is how I got into it.
Yeah, so you got into it, because of passion. You were very passionate about
Yes, very
hospitality.
passionate about entertaining people, being around people, and making people feel comfortable
Mm.
and happy. Um, that is my strength, and
Mm.
that is what I think makes me successful in the industry.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that were gonna come. Like, what's your secret recipe? But now we know that
Well, there's a lot more to tell.
Yes. So beyond the passion, it's also all what you just have shared. So we'll come back to those. Mr. Abimbola, what brought you to the hospitality business?
I sort of slipped and fell into it almost by accident.
Wow.
I studied marketing whilst I was in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and also IT.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of many Sierra Leoneans that was unfortunate to leave Sierra Leone during the conflict in '97.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back for the first time in 2001, I was just very frustrated, especially when I went back with all the negative news about Sierra Leone, on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That still continues to this day.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there's an opportunity there
Mm-hmm.
for me to sort of show a different side
Mm-hmm.
of Sierra Leone. So when I went back, I thought I'll just build a website and I'll show people all the wonderful places that they don't usually see of Sierra Leone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started. And it just sort of evolved from that point. So what started as a passion project, I soon realized that you have to sort of develop a business model around it if you want it to continue.
Yeah.
And that's when we started offering various services to the point where I decided I had to come back home and commit to it full time.
So if I understand well, you saw a gap and an opportunity, and instead of seeing it as a problem, you saw it as an opportunity that you could grasp and then make the most of it.
Yeah, it was definitely a gap because enough of that information wasn't out there. I mean, at the time, even the National Tourist Board didn't have a website, for example.
Okay.
Ministry of Tourism didn't have a website. A lot of the hotels, didn't have websites at that time. So there was definitely a gap, but I'm not sure whether that was how I perceived it at the time. For me, it was just like, I need to just put this information out there for people to see. But of course, it then evolved into something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much. So, what are the challenges that are related to embarking into or being an entrepreneur in this business sector, Randa?
In the tourism sector?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, some of the challenges that we all face in all the industries, which is the first one you would say, is access to finance.
Yeah.
And it makes it more difficult even when you're a woman to be able to access finance, because here locally credit is, loans are so high, the interest rates, they're just not achievable. You'll end up failing when you take a loan because you just can't meet the payments. That's number one. Number two, this industry, it's been dead for a long time because of the war. So we have this very bad reputation that we chop up limbs and stuff abroad. And for the most part, we've been dependent on international tourism. So that was a big first hurdle. So we do have we do not have experienced staff. We don't have a pool of human resource for our industry that we can say, there's no competition, you can say. If you come and you're a good general manager and you're Sierra Leonean, trust me, you'll go like this because there are none. Okay, not because they're not capable, but because they're not trained in that that domain. The same goes for all departments, IT, different departments, front desk. We don't have any experience because the industry was dormant for so long. So that's a major challenge in running the business. Another major challenge, I'm not sure this one is in another of your questions, stop me if it is the economic shocks that we get all the time. We get several major shocks. We've had, I opened in 2014, was hit by Ebola straight away. Then we've had the mudslides. Then the election that we have every 4 to 5 years is a major shock because it affects the industry before and after, depending on who wins. Okay.
So because people are scared of coming in the country, they don't know the outcome.
Because at the moment we don't have tourism as in leisure. Our tourists are not their business. So we're dependent only on the people coming in for business, or a little bit on family and returning people like that. But the majority of our clients are for business. So when you have economic shocks or problems like that, it affects. So we've had Ebola, and then now COVID. With COVID is to our advantage.
Is it? That's one of the questions.
We'll come to that later.
We'll see how, because I'm interested. It's interesting, in fact, to note that so many businesses have turned COVID to their advantage, but I never thought that the tourism industry was one of them. But as you said, we come back to
we haven't yet turned it to our advantage. No. Okay. That has not. No. We've been highly impacted, very badly. But like with all the other shocks, it's about doing business in Sierra Leone for me in general with the hospitality. It's like this. It's so erratic just because of all these shocks. And in order to survive, we constantly have to innovate and adapt and change to suit the market or the times that we're in. Or you sit up and say, okay, I give up. That's it. I'm done. But you have to be looking all the time for new things to do. Okay, what do I do now? This is what changes, innovate, new ways to. If this is the law, we have to change and move around it. And the way we are in right now in COVID times, it's like every day there's a new law. So I mean, it's moved over for us recently, better than the rest of the world, but it's been difficult. But but I will get to the point of how we can. Everything can be turned to your advantage, or you adapt to the market. So it's just according to how you take it and run.
I love the innovation that came from your intervention, because it's what's absolutely needed among young people and also in this industry, like how to innovate, even not to reinvent the wheel, but just as you said, to bring different ways of satisfying or even packaging what you were doing in a very, very smart way. I appreciate that.
I will give you some examples when we get to it.
Yeah, no problem. Mr. Abimbola, what are the challenges?
Well, I think Randa has more or less, touched on the big factors: the access to finance, the human resource issue. Even we've lost a lot of skills to other countries that maybe have more developed tourism industries, and of course, the growth of the industry has been like this. As Randa pointed out, it is incredibly frustrating because, we were starting off from a disadvantaged position, and B, the industry itself is one that is quite volatile. So, economic shocks, things like Ebola, it impacts us significantly. And even in cases where you have, I'll give you a typical example, like where you have tour guides, you have like maybe a training session for like 50 tour guides, but the industry cannot even absorb because, as Randa rightly pointed out, the majority of traffic that we have coming in are corporates. So eventually what happens is those tour guides who have been given the skills eventually find themselves going into other industries because they need employment. So there are many challenges, but we're still in it.
That's great. Yeah, despite the challenges, and that's very brave, and that's the way to go.
Brave is one word.
If not, you would not still
Yeah.
be in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but any success stories like rosy success stories that balance the.
I think it is relevant to survive as a business.
Well, in 2020, I think in order to not give up or feel that you're not doing something right, it's the year of survival only. For me, the way I've gone through this times is to say, this year we should only survive. One, health-wise. Two, business-wise, just keep afloat as much as we can, so that we don't. But we're not. I don't think I'm expecting profits this year. So yes, but success stories. I mean, success. How do you determine success? It depends on what you're saying to determine success. For me, I would say yes. I would say I've been successful in this industry because one, I think I consider myself a smaller business compared to all the other hotels. Yet I feel like I'm a leader in a lot of ways because I feel that sometimes when I start something, I can see somebody else following down that route. Um, and I think we've been able to, which I think I was a driving force behind as well, is to get together as an industry and create a body that we can work together as much as we can. We haven't been able to do it as perfectly as we should, but where we're now talking, we're working together with government. There's, we have several bodies, and we're all trying to work together to develop the market in tourism. I think that's a successful story. I think Abimbola coming back and doing the VSL. So if you look back at where we were, I don't know, 10 years ago, and where we are now, even if you look at the number of hotels around, and now I'm not speaking about personal success only, because once you realize that the success of your country is also your success, then when you do your work, you do it in a way that, okay, I want to do well and I want to succeed individually, but I also want to see a greater growth, because that greater growth ends up impacting you. So you will become bigger. So I think we've gotten to that stage where we all really try to work together, although we're competitors, and try to also work with government as much as we can. To move forward in the right direction, because tourism is really the way to go. I mean, the number of jobs, right, that it can provide. So for me, that's a success story in both ways.
Like what was gained from maybe 10 years ago to now.
10 years ago to now, on a general level, and on a personal level, I've grown my business. From a 24-bedroom hotel, I now have the studios and apartments, and I recently just opened the conference room, a large conference room gym, and a swimming pool and outdoor terrace area, which people are loving. So for me, that is success. In 2021, we'll turn it into monetary success.
Okay, I do hope so. Like I think all the businesses who were able in 2020 to stabilize their businesses and not disappear will see, the gains of what they invested in, hopefully. Yeah. So what were your success stories?
Yeah. I think we've been in this since 2004, and it's speaking from a personal perspective, I established here in 2008, and I think taking into consideration all the systemic shocks and economic shocks, and the worst of which is COVID, to still be in it, I consider that a success. I think Randa made a very valid point as to how do you determine success, because it's so subjective. As a business, it's a very exciting industry to be involved in for any young person that is considering a career. We've been involved with various projects that have been, quite exciting, not only for myself, but also for staff and also for tour guides. Earlier this year, we worked to get a rally to Sierra Leone, We've got like hundreds of cars into the country, and obviously those people were here for like a few days. They put money into the economy. We were fortunate to work with, like the Idris Elba people when they came. We've worked with various, documentary makers. But also, I've been fortunate to see places in Sierra Leone that a lot of people still don't even know exist. So for me personally, that's quite good and successful for me. Obviously, the business has continued to grow, even though we don't even want to talk about 2020. But I think what gives me the most joy is really being able to take clients to remote communities and being able to put money into those directly into those communities. I think that is what gives me the greatest joy. For them to see tourism as a source of income, because otherwise, in some areas, the alternative is to cut down trees and to mine and to damage the environment. So you in a sense you wouldn't blame them because people have to survive. But to be able to offer tourism as an alternative source of sustainable income is what, from a personal perspective, gives me the most joy. As Randa has pointed out, we've been able to set up the Sierra Leone Tourism Federation, which is an umbrella body for all the different associations in the tourism industry. And I think in the coming years, it will help bring more cohesion in the industry, because the private sector will essentially be speaking with one voice on matters that affect us all. So that was also that's also a big thing. And Randa pointed out rightly as well that 10 years ago or 10, 15 years ago, I mean, Sierra Leone was in a different place. We don't often appreciate it because it's like growth, like even as an individual, you don't even notice sometimes when when you're growing personally. But when you look back, you can see the steps and the development that has taken place. I'll give you a typical example. When we started in 2004, as I said, most of the hotels didn't have websites. They didn't have email addresses. I don't know if anybody knows about, there was something called the Aberdeen Exchange, 272 number. You could never go through. There wasn't power on the beach. I believe like the entire beach has power now. So like, there wasn't power in the country even. So like, hotels would tell you, even though it's still a problem, but it's not as bad as it used to be, where like you would have to generate your own power 24/7. And that has huge impact for cost, and obviously that makes you less competitive. So there's been a lot of, we didn't have any international chains, now we have like a few. I'm sure others are looking to come in. So there's a lot to be, there's successes, but there's still huge challenges, but there's definitely successes.
You are very right to say that, many people don't even see it. Like, I left the country for 2 years during Ebola, and when I came back, I was completely wowed by the transformation I was seeing. But when I discuss with people, they're like, it's the same. Maybe you were not involved in that area. But, so much is changing, but people who've been staying here don't appreciate it maybe that much. We're still dwelling, that negativity bias. We always dwell on what's not working. But for the two of you, I've been doing research, even though, Randa, I know you personally, but I still do research on you and on Abimbola so much before having him on stage. And I was asking also, like, how are they changing the narrative? Because we want role models for our youth, and it's not every successful person in terms of how society describes being successful, just by being wealthy, but like successful in terms of making difference, in terms of changing the narrative. And somebody who knows you, Wanda, very well told me, like, you go to Swiss hotel, as you said, yes, it's small, but you have quality, sense of detail on one plate. The person was telling me like the quality of linen that Swiss uses, and I was like, "Are you paid to promote them?" So it was so beautiful. A person that doesn't have interest, but who was testifying how Swiss hotel is making difference and changing the narrative within the
Hotel industry.
the industry. And Mr. Bimbola, what I appreciated the most was you're not doing business for the selfish reasons, not for you to flourish or to become successful, but more for the destination to be not only known but um, to be up to the potential it has. So I also have somebody who said that you bring like those documentaries, you pay your money for documentaries to be made just for the depths of Sierra Leone to be revealed to the world. And those are the entrepreneurs we need, who challenge the status quo, even though it's really very hard, but who arrive at making things happen in their industry. So I really commend you guys for that. And that's, I think, deserves a very warm applause. So, just wanted to know what would be your advice for those young people who would like to embark in the tourism industry?
Um, okay, first I would take off on what you just said. It's all about passion,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I think that this is one industry. I think in anything that a young person would want to do,
Mm-hmm.
is you need to find out what you really enjoy doing,
Mm-hmm.
and try to do something within that realm, not just to say, hey, I want any kind of job.
Yeah.
No. If you like people, then the hospitality industry is for you. If you're warm, you're friendly, and I think this is one of our greatest assets.
Mm-hmm.
Is you need in the tourism industry, in the hospitality industry, you need to have the character first before anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can have an amazing person, but can I say that in Creole?
Mm-hmm.
If they're just going to be grumpy to his face and not smile,
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit hard to work in our industry unless you're in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the greatest thing you need is your character.
Mm-hmm.
This is an industry that can create tons of jobs because tourism doesn't just stop at the hotels.
Yeah.
For us, like we said, this industry has been dormant for so long. There are lots of training opportunities
Mm-hmm.
that are available. There are lots of grants and lots of things to encourage young people to come into this direction. And it's not something that takes too long, right, Bimbola? It's you can do courses and different things. You can go into catering. For me, as from the hotel perspective, what we need right now, front desk agents, which you need some computer knowledge, a good basic English, and a very warm, friendly personality. Okay? IT, we need IT because you cannot have no internet in your hotel. Okay? You need IT. We need definitely we need high-end management. For that, we need to encourage young people to do courses. And once you're doing your courses, come in and train. Because to be a general manager in a hotel, in any other country, you see people working as waiters when they're students in university, even if they're not in hospitality. Here, you don't see them. We need to have waiters that are educated and that are they're starting as waiters, but they want to move up and become a general manager eventually. Because in the hotel industry, the general manager that you see today in the suit is somebody that's worked in the kitchen, in the restaurant, in the housekeeping, and in every single department. Because that's the only way you know what really goes on inside, and you can fix it. Is by being hands-on, and that's probably why our hotel, the Swiss hotel, we're into detail because we're involved in every section. I will take a broom and go into the kitchen and sweep. I will help the waiter serve. It doesn't matter that I'm the CEO because this is how I get close to my guests. We're a boutique hotel. We're not a commercial hotel. So we look after the guests like you are in your own home. And it's a brilliant industry to be in. And I think that you can get quicker training and get a job faster in this industry because it's a big niche market. It's empty. So I really do encourage young people to, as much as they can, to go to schools and not, like I said, to be embarrassed to start in a position because that is what makes you a better GM at the end of the day. You start there and you work your way up.
Yeah, because what came to mind when you were sharing that is we don't have that culture of working while studying. If it's at a restaurant where you clean the plates, what they say, plonger, like you are cleaning the plates was for you to earn, a better future, for you to pay your studies. But we have a culture of, oh, I'm studying, and my parents will struggle to ensure that I stay at university. And if you don't have that, then your studies will be jeopardized. So that culture of, you know, of studying and at the same time having those small jobs that help you have ends meet. Sometimes, as you said, it's more of being ashamed of small jobs, but also thinking that the environment doesn't allow it. While we have those examples in the tourism sector and many other sectors. So, Mr. Abimbola, what would you what are the attributes you think a person who wants to embark in the industry should have? Because she mentioned a lot about character, but then what's that character? What does it encompass?
Patience.
Patience.
It's again, it's a tough industry.
Mm.
Um, but it is an industry where we're merely scratching the surface. So there's a lot of opportunity that I believe has still yet to come.
Mm.
Hard work.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if you necessarily have a bachelor's. If this is the industry that you've chosen that you want to work in, then you need to put in the time and put in the hard graft and be willing to learn. Even if you have a tourism qualification, right? If you're going into the industry for the first time, there's still a lot that you need to learn from people who have been in it, for such a while. But again, like I said, tourism the opportunity is huge. Globally, tourism is like 10%, employs 10% of people worldwide, directly and indirectly. It's not just hotels. You're talking about restaurants, you're talking about tour guides, IT people, right across the board. Directly and indirectly, tourism can create a lot of jobs. Artists, you all tie in. Basically, even the ministry, it's called the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. And I believe that cultural element is what connects everyone here. It's a part of us. And there's so many different ways that you can take that and run with it. Even if you don't want to necessarily work for someone else, there's still things that you can do for yourself. There's never been an easier time, I believe, in the world to actually do stuff for yourself. There's so many platforms, especially for young people. There are guys that are online, YouTubers. All you need these days is maybe a phone, basic editing software. You can literally create things from nothing, right? So for young people, I think the opportunity is huge. The barrier to entry in the tourism industry is really low, and with some creativity, there's many different ways that you can run with it.
Yeah. And then that creativity and innovation, maybe when somebody creates something that is dedicated to the industry, even those businesses, the operators that already exist, like Swiss, that is already always oriented towards innovation, would buy those either apps or any digital creative asset that people create, because they need to leverage on that for their own business to boom. So it's not only you doing it from within, but if somebody creates something innovative and comes to sell it to the industry, the businesses, they will embrace it even more than if their own innovators come with it.
Can I just add two things? You should also be willing to work for free.
Oh.
Right? Especially if you're just starting out. If you're just starting out, you have zero experience, right? If you're somebody that's really determined, you should be prepared to put in some time for free, volunteer your time. You can get a stipend or whatever. And also, do not underestimate the power of technology. Right? That will serve you well, regardless of where you are. And I think that's really an area that Sierra Leone needs to step up. Right? So, regardless of where you find yourself, do not underestimate the power of technology. Try to get as much IT knowledge as you can, because even though we're lagging behind, the rest of the world, that's where they are.
Great.
Can I also just add to that? Definitely technology is up there. Because marketing, social media marketing executives, so we need young people that are good at these things. Because now, even if you see, it's such a evolving industry and it moves with the time so fast that it's hard to catch up when we have all these economic shocks and we don't have a base of people to assist us. So definitely these people that are good at young people, social media, advertising, doing flyers, we're all looking for people like those that can even do part-time jobs with us or come in for training and at the same time earning a little bit of money. Another thing we're struggling with big time is accountants, but hotel accountants. It's a completely different ballgame. So we're not different, but it's a specialized market. It's a specialized type of accounting that doesn't exist in Sierra Leone. There are very few hotel accountants. So for those young people that are doing hotel accounting, can some of them please now go into hotel accounting? Okay.
Let me just add something because we were talking about character and Randa brought up the issue of accountants and another quality that you should have, not just in tourism, but regardless of where you find yourself, you have to be trustworthy. Like there's so many stories of especially accountants that can play funny games. So anyway, as a young person, I think that is potentially in an environment such as this one of your greatest assets.
Yeah, and when you talking about what's the adjective you use again? Being trustworthy. It also, I think, at the same time we've used what people also always deploy is being dependable. Not only with money, but maybe with coming on time, punctuality, but also your customer service. You talked about it. We know that in our country we struggle so much with customer service. People treat you as if they're giving you a favor instead of you the customer giving them service. So I really wanted to bounce on that dependability, having to do with even equipping yourself with the skills that those who employ you will be happy to have, making yourself indispensable. So I wanted us to go back to the COVID-19 because I think there are many obvious ways in which it jeopardized the business or even hurt it so much, including the limited gathering, restriction of travel and all. But then, what are the other less obvious from people who are outsiders? What are the less obvious ways it has weakened the industry?
Well, obviously, our industry has been the most badly impacted. And it just goes to show you how much we impact the rest of the economy. So we need to be taken seriously as an industry. There are it's impacted in my case, I would say, number one, we're high risk. Our industry is highest risk because we come into contact with so many people. And because Sierra Leone has managed to contain it, so we're the ones coming into contact mostly with the people that are coming in, but that risk is still there. For me, my greatest challenge is really trying to protect my staff, because it's not just about protecting your guests, you also have to protect your staff. It's a responsibility with you. And I've found that our people, they don't take it seriously. When you try to protect them, sometimes they would protect the guests, they will listen to you when it comes to that, but they don't listen to you when it comes to themselves. And at the end of the day, that responsibility is on your shoulders. That's one. But then it also comes into, you have people's livelihood in your hands. You have to make sure you pay these people. How are they going to eat if you don't give them money? No money coming in. I mean, it's impacted us in ways that you cannot imagine. Then moving forward now in the new times, what is 2021 going to hold for us? We have, when you do a business, you have a marketing plan for a year, you have your budget for a year. All of that take and throw away. So the last 2 months, like struggling to do this last 2 months, and now we're going to struggle to do the next year. What can you even plan? So you make tentative plans and you just try to adjust to them. But COVID has been tough. I personally haven't lost anyone to COVID. I did lose one member of staff that I thought was COVID, but he tested negative. He wasn't. But I don't know if any. We've been quite good in Sierra Leone, I think.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of problems with the COVID. A lot of little problems. Still having the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Reopening your business, it's like starting all over again. You know, and we're struggling, and people have been like, your staff have been asleep for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's like retraining all over again.
The mechanism has
Yes,
been, yeah.
it's very tough. Very, very tough.
Yeah.
But you know, this is what
but you bounce back.
You have to know that it's not a smooth ride.
Yeah.
This is, for those of you studying economics, it's like that.
Yeah.
But now it's very sharp and steep.
Yeah.
the curves are very sharp and steep these days.
But we will survive.
We will.
Yeah. Okay, so I just would like to invite us to take a break, and the MC will lead us to the live painting that we have here today. So, can we know exactly what she's painting and introducing herself and all?
Painting of a lady wearing a face mask. The main purpose is that just to create awareness about the situation we're in right now, the COVID-19 pandemic, and to create awareness that we're all supposed to be wearing our face masks and we should stay safe. So I'm from an organization called Bondumani Arts, and we have been doing arts for the past 7 years. And these past 3 days, yesterday and today, tomorrow, we are having an art exhibition. You can check it out at Seafood Restaurant, and this is just a speed painting. Like, we have so many masterpieces, and you can go around and see. This is just something I did for you guys. There's so much more that we can do, and you can come and see. So. I hope you guys can see.